Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast. If you are looking for a podcast about instructional strategies enhanced by technology, you came to the right place. In our conversations, we will talk with tech experts, share ideas and strategies to help you build your toolbox with tools that you can use in your class immediately.
Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast. I am here. We're doing Out of This World STEAM unit with Rachel Ahrens. Rachel is a third grade teacher at Bowens Corner Elementary School. And in this episode, we're going to discuss how she plans, organizes, and implements an impressive STEAM unit centered around Mars exploration. Rachel's going to give us some tips, some tricks, and some pointers to take your STEAM unit to the next level. Before we get started, let's pause for this week's quick tech tip. For this week's quick tech tip, we are looking at Adobe Spark that is found right in our class link. It looks like this. It's Adobe Creative Cloud Express. What this has is a bunch of different features that your students would be able to use to create different projects. You can do presentations, slideshows, posters, journals, flyers, infographics, resumes, worksheets, lesson plans, and even a report card. But what people don't know about Adobe Express is that also has different actions that you can do. With images, you can resize, remove backgrounds, or convert or crop. With videos, you can trim, resize, you can merge a couple of different videos, you could create a GIF, crop, and change the speed. You can generate QR codes here for your gallery walks. And then with also PDFs, you can convert things to PDFs, convert from PDFs, edit PDFs, and then also combine PDFs. So some really nice actions inside of Adobe Express besides the creation that we most know. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the tech tip of the week. So, disclaimer, Rachel is a former student of mine, but that is not the only reason that she is here. Yes, I'm that old. The gray hairs are not for show. What caught my attention was this Mars unit that you did that was impressive. It incorporated, all your standards, all your different subjects, and, also brought in a lot of technology, which is obviously where I came in. And so, I thought this would be a great way to kind of bring some teachers and thinking about how they can take their STEAM units and kind of get them started. And so let's start at the beginning. Like, how did this Mars exploration STEAM unit take place?
So it actually didn't start in isolation. So my old team teacher and I, when we started teaching our new social studies standards, we cut up all our standards for science and social studies, and we decided to group them based on like how they naturally fit together. And so we split them really into 4 different units. And when we got stuck, when we couldn't really see how the standards could relate to each other, we brainstormed a local problem or some sort of scenario that would enable them to fit together.
Sure.
And so we did that. And then in order to pull in our ELA standards, we thought about, kind of how we would want students to go about showing their learning for that problem. And so what would be an authentic assessment?
Sure.
And so we thought really, okay, how do we want students to access the information that they're learning, and how do we want them to express the information? Because that's really what those ELA standards are.
And those are the best, key buzzwords. How can they access, how do they engage, and then again, how can they demonstrate? Perfect. Yeah, love it.
Right. So, and math is a little bit more tricky to integrate. It has its own progression. It builds on itself. And so, it can be harder, but we sort of just pulled it in where it was relevant.
Right.
And I think it gets easier as, kids get older.
Sure.
Because the math becomes more applicable for different settings.
Right.
But so we did that, and we came up with 4 different scenarios, and we've just built on them.
Yeah,
from
that's
year to
awesome.
year. Yeah.
So then that's where the planning and organization part comes in, which I'm sure starts, way back, because you started this Mars unit. It's about 2-3 months of of diving into lots of different areas and bringing in technology. And so the planning and organization part, like if you were explaining this to another teacher, where would you say start when it comes to like the planning part and organization?
So once you have your standards and you have your scenario, just starting with the driving question. So our driving question was is Mars the next big migration?
Sure.
And we pulled articles. Really, we start with an article. So we, looked at some Elon Musk, SpaceX articles, and it's definitely relevant. It's really a thing that some people are trying to do, and so we started there, and with a follow-up question like, how can humans survive or even thrive on Mars? And so from there, we broke it down week by week to figure out sort of how we were going to progress through the standards and the different phases of the projects that we wanted them to go through to gather their research and create their product. And so once we had our week by week breakdown, it was easy to figure out where we were going to pull in technology. This unit, it was a little challenging. We didn't really find an expert for this unit, but we could, with Google Meet, really anything's possible.
Correct. So when you're talking about building this week by week, and then this is also infused into like all the different subjects that you're doing. So in the the ELA section, you're doing something with the Mars, and so every part of it has some connection to the Mars exploration through the entire time.
Yes. Yeah. So for social studies, we were focusing on the exploration and migration, looking at studying it throughout history first. We sort of front loaded with that and looking at the different patterns, and then brainstorming, okay, well, we've explored, here, and we've explored here, and we've explored here, but where have we not? And we brainstormed like push and pull factors, what would motivate people to want to leave? And we tied that in with persuasive writing, what occupations would we need on Mars if we were really wanting to colonize it? And how can you use those push and pull factors as motivators and reasons in your persuasive writing?
That's awesome. And then you guys did, I know where the technology part comes in is that we helped with a couple different things. And one of them was making of the colonial, what do you guys call them? The shelter, not shelter.
The colonies, the different rooms.
Yeah, the different rooms. Yeah, inside of the, I guess, shelters, right? Basically, would be the right term that we would, they created in SketchUp, which is, we were worried that it wasn't going to work with third grade, but they did a great job. And they did a great job of working with that CAD program, SketchUp, and then being able to create those rooms, and then we were able to laser cut those on the ITO truck, and then be able to create, which they had a great time with as well. So
they did. They really enjoyed it, and they really rose to the challenge. And so, with that, we did. They had the rooms. They designed the rooms to really help their potential colonists envision what life would look like on Mars. But then we had built a Mars rover. When we were talking about the different rovers that they've already sent to Mars.
And then we got to roll those down the ITO truck ramp. And then they did some data with that, which rover was going to be the best rover to be able to go and explore Mars, which was great. And that was where you brought in math there, right? Yeah. Which standard with that?
We were doing, if we brought out the timers, it would have matched more closely with time. And
then the measurements. And then, so that was great. And it was, a lot of fun. And we brought in some robots too, just to check out, and, think about how robotics can be used in the exploration of Mars, which they were able to come up with some really great ideas for that as well. So any other like big standards that were attacked with this unit that we left out?
With science, we did more rocks and minerals, the different resources, and it was a good review of other science standards we had covered, like changing states of matter, because there are ice caps on Mars. And so talking about, is it possible to melt the ice caps? Would that be a potential solution to that need? And we had already studied circuits and electricity. So solar panels were a big solution that they had come up with. And then we also covered text structures with our Mars website. So their final product was a website for their particular colony. We had 5 different colonies, and each colony created their website. And each student had a different role in combining their writing onto their website. And
That's awesome.
We
Did you
used
use Google Sites for that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And they did a description text structure to do the About Us page and explain, what their colony was like, and then a problem and solution for the amenities page. I think it was the needs and amenities page to explain, the different problems. Like, what if we don't have air? What if we don't have food? And so they included their solution from their research.
Right. And then I saw the posters too that you guys created outside. Where did they make those in?
They made them in Canva.
Canva, yeah. And that was basically trying to recruit different types of people?
Different occupations.
Occupations, yeah. Because they had to think about, and each group got to pick different people to bring, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and they did that part individually.
Right. Okay.
So that was one of the first things we did with our persuasive writing was figuring out which occupations would be most needed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Love it. Any kind of tips and tricks that you could give for teachers when they're putting together a STEAM unit, and things that you've run into, things you've gotten rid of or things you'd never get rid of, kind of thing?
I think definitely use local experts if you can.
Yeah.
Because, our expertise is in teaching, but maybe not necessarily in something more content specific.
Right.
And so they can definitely be helpful. But what I found really helpful for this particular unit, I found a novel called The Lion on Mars.
Okay.
And the read aloud really helped students. In the read aloud, the main character is in a colony on Mars, and he only knows being colony life on Mars.
I gotcha. Okay.
And so there are other colonies from other countries, and we discovered that there's some conflict back on Earth, but they discovered that by collaborating with the other colonies there on Mars, they have access to more materials. They can trade. They can come up with different solutions that maybe they hadn't thought of, but other colonies had. And it really helped show students like we aren't the best in isolation, like we are better in community. And it helped them, I think, empathize and be able to visualize it a little bit more.
Right.
And so I had done that read aloud with them this year, but I hadn't the past 2 years. I'd done the unit. And I think it really made a difference in their thought process.
Gotcha.
So
that's what else did, as far as the read aloud, did they take anything that into the unit that they picked from the book that you saw maybe?
Like when we focused on creating a colony that can survive, but then we also talked about how humans can thrive on Mars.
Right. And
so they designed a solution as well, designed more towards solving the problems of homesickness or loneliness. And I could tell that their solutions had come from that book had sparked ideas.
I got you. Yeah, and they created those in Google Drawings, and we laser cut those. Correct. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So those were cool too.
Yeah.
So little projects, most of it was very kind of almost toys and very like comforting and soothing. Is that part of because the person in the book was struggling through, and not having things from home? Because I noticed that was a big part of it too. Is like trying to bring the elements of home and thinking about things that they couldn't live without that now are kind of gone. So yeah. Yeah, and then you guys they also did something with Book Creator, or did you do something with Book Creator with the Mars exploration?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I made a dash book.
Right.
After attending your session on dash books.
Yeah.
So Dash was exploring Mars.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I used that at the very beginning of the unit to give them more background information about what Mars was like. So in the past, I've had them research that information, but they were doing different research later. Right. So instead, on each page, Dash explored different parts of Mars.
Yeah. And I remember they really seemed to gathered a lot from that because they were referring back to that. I remember when we were doing the shelter unit and the rover about the ice caps and things like that they learned from the book as well. So I feel like they definitely picked up some things from that as well. So any other last minute tips and tricks for somebody that's looking to do this?
It's super fun.
It is really, it is super impressive to see. I'm not just saying that because you're my former student. It was really impressive, but I'm very proud of what you've accomplished, and teaching that you've done here has been absolutely awesome. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation. And the other thing too, is that you can reach out to Rachel, send her an email, or send me an email, or reach out to your ILC, and we can get you in touch with Rachel if you're wanting to explore, taking those STEAM units to the next level. And it doesn't obviously have to be the Mars exploration, but just, finding something that you can connect all those different subjects to, I thought was really impressive. And the kids really got into it, and you could tell that there was some really deep learning taking place throughout of it. So I really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
All right. And we'll definitely continue to have these conversations as we work in the future. So thank you so much, and reach out to us if you ever need anything. There's show notes available that you can find that will have some, her contact information on that as well. It's found in the description window. And if you're also part of our BCSD Connect Schoology page, we have a whole podcast section that has all the different podcasts, all the different notes, and that listening to podcasts also allows you to get PD. You can click the link on the show notes to register for Unified Talent and be able to get registered, get 1 hour of credit for every 2 podcasts you listen to. So take a look at that, and then again, reach out to us if you have any questions. All right, bye.